Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Outpost. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we are picking up with Luna, Talon, and Aster making their way to The Outpost. I mean, it's like, right, we need to hurry to The Outpost because you've kind of set everything in motion, so why that has to be the final battleground, like, it's just like he had to make his siblings believe, like, right, there is some reconciliation kind of in play, but it's like, no, we gotta lead them there, because it's a guaranteed, I guess, like, a single fortified enough location, I guess, just to get them all in one place. But regardless, obviously you have Luna having reluctancy when it comes to, trusting him, but Talon does after she touched him, and it's just kind of like, she's like, I don't know how to explain it. I love Luna basically being like, oh, like, the connection, like, with a lover, and it's like, Aster was like, no, more like family, and then eventually he explains that, yes, he is father to all Black Bloods, because he fell in love with a human, Talia, and that led to eventually the birth of the Black Bloods. And it's like, yeah, all this infighting, and because Zed brings it up later on, it's like, all this infighting, humans and Black Bloods hating each other, we've been family the entire time, and we've been fighting each other for like thousands of years. It's like, that is kind of the sucky part of him. But that's why I kept going back and forth, because I figured, like, right, that was going to be the thing of, like, he was the forefather of all Black Bloods, but it seems like specifically, like, he is that, but he's, like, specifically, like, the direct correlation to, like, Talon. Like, I think, like, he's probably, like, her most direct bloodline relative. I think it's, like, a combination of both, like, both facts of him being forefather to all Black Bloods, but also specifically being her being his most direct descendant. Type of situation. I even love him being like, like you and Luna, you and this human, you're like distant cousins, which I'm like, that's kind of cool to know. Like, hey, it's like, Luna doesn't say anything about it, but I'm sure, like, it's just like, truth be told, like, it's no different from her being like, oh, you're all family, human and Black Bloods alike, regardless, but it's like, it's still kind of noted, like, oh, we're even more connected than I thought. I'm sure, like, it's not that crazy of a deal. It's not like, oh, we're actually sisters or something. It's like, no, but still, it's just like, it's gotta be nice to kind of know, like, oh, on some level, we're family. Like, we have even, But I guess for Luna, it's like, even if Talon is a Black Blood, it never, like, stopped her from being like, yo, you're, like, one of my best buds type of situation, so. But, Aster is trying to concentrate and, come up with his plan, which I love that it is a thing of, like, cool. I mean, I guess it's like, he's so readily ready to take care of his siblings, because it's like, we need to do something about them before the end comes. But it's like, right, you didn't really take much time to formulate a plan before you kind of set this all in motion, so. They make their way back to the outpost, and obviously you have Garrett being happy for her to return, but obviously not too happy to see Aster. But then he's like, yeah, like, you don't have to trust me, trust Talon. She's the one deserving of your trust. It's like, he's like, I've been with her the entire time of, like, ever since she got the Kinj, and I've been here every step of the way of just, like, she loves you very deeply from the moment she first met you, the first time you made love. And he's like, all right, that's enough. And you see Luna kind of laughing about it, but it's like, yeah, he's been there, like, a good chunk of Talon's life. I mean, that's what makes their connection so strong, is because that makes me wonder, like, how long did, like, the three have theirs? They must have had their Kinjs less time than Talon did. Maybe they had it more. I don't know. Because, like, it doesn't seem like there's anyone around that's had their Kinjs. I mean, like, cause we don't know when they got their respective Kinjs. Because Talon's definitely had her, like, 13 plus years. She had it ever since the beginning of the series, and then we jumped up to, like, her being older 13 years later. So it's like, yeah, she's had hers for years. So her and Aster have been connected for that long. So that's what the difference between her Kinj situation, because everyone else, even Zed, the only other person who's had their Kinj that longer time is Zed. But even then, it's like, yeah, even Talon saying, like, yeah, it's only been a couple months. And it's like, yeah, he got his in season 2. So I think that's kind of an interesting element to it all. That he's had his Kinj since then, and And it's kind of interesting to think about. Once again, I like knowing the time frames of like her saying like, right, you've only had yours a couple months. It's meaning like it probably has been this entire series has taken place maybe over the course of a year. Like, that's kind of crazy to think about. Like, I don't know. I always like knowing that time frame. It's like, so it's like, oh, there's a little bit of a Persona situation going on here. Like, oh, you got a year for this entire story to kind of take place. I don't know. I talked about that before. I'm kind of like, I always think that's the coolest thing when you're able to like pinpoint like, oh yeah, this entire thing, like, you know, knowing that an entire series took place over the course of a day. Like, there's a series I've referenced before. It was a webtoon I read that like, both seasons each took respective, like each of those stories of both, like it's a 2-season webtoon that like each season took place over the course of one school day or something like that. I just always thought that was such a fascinating reveal. So I'm always been kind of a nut job about like knowing the time frame for stories and stuff like that. But regardless, going on a huge tangent. But also, you know, Zed and Ren getting to meet Aster, and it's like, wait, this is our ancestor, because it's like, for Ren, it's just like, oh my god, I'm getting to talk to one of them, because like, right, we've been in battle with the gods, so she's never had a confrontation with them, so now it's like, oh, I get to actually have a conversation with one, but then like the conversation of like, right, you know, we're all connected, like, you know, it's like, right, me and Janzo's baby is just another variation of like, further down the bloodline of just like, I mean, it's just going to be like a thinner and thinner bloodline, just very much like going from Goku, the full Saiyan, to Pan being the 4th Saiyan that she is. So it's just kind of something of that similar vein of like, yeah, just like our baby's just going to be a new tree in this ever-growing branch of just like black bloods and humans intermingling. Like, obviously, they're the first, they're going to be the first ones in generations. So like, the bloodline might not be as thinned in, you know, because like Black Bloods and Black Bloods got together, like, you know, because it's just like, because of the division between them and humans. But like, so like when you actually break it down, like their baby might have like, you know, eventually, like, obviously that, but I think the Black Blood bloodline is strong enough to kind of still keep going. You get what I'm saying? Like, but it's like, yeah, like they haven't like been much human and Black Blood mingling in a long time. So like, Ren and Janzo's baby's kind of the first in a long time, which kind of makes it stand out that much more too. But it's not just the other gods they have to contend themselves with. They also have to contend with helping Marvin, because the Kavi are dying. Like, they're trying to put them back to sleep, but there's no putting them back to sleep. Now that they've been awoken, they be awoken. And now for Marvin, it's like, I'm responsible for what happens to my people. There are no good choices. He's like, what do you do when there are no good choices? Because the only way to save his people is for the masters to show up and revive them. But by reviving them, they're enslaving them. So either the Kavi face extinction because I either let them die, or I let the gods come and enslave them. It's like, there are no good choices. If you let them get enslaved, at least your people be alive, but that will mean that the gods will use the Kavis to lay waste to this world. And it's like, right, that includes his friends, and he can't do that. But let's not forget, amongst the Kavi, he also has another Lakma. He has a daughter, you know, so there are, once again, no good choices in this. And so Ren is trying to find a way, but Aster looks at the Kavi as nothing more than a byproduct of cruelty, and like, they're just meant to serve. Like, he kind of looks at them as nothing, like they were, it's like, it is kind of sad, like, you still have that perspective on the Kavi, despite, like, the only reason why he feels the affiliation he has with the humans is because he always found them fascinating, their spirit, their intelligence. So he fell in love with a human and gave birth to so much. So it's like, he has a little bit of bias in this regard because he fell in love with a human, which her name is Talia, which ended up being was it Talon's grandmother's name and her mother's name? Not her mother, but like her grandmother's mother or something like that. But it's even like Talon's name herself is a variation of Talia, like just in a different language. Like just a newer version of the language is like, it's Talon, but it's the same as Talia. So she shares that name. She carries on that spirit essentially. But like I say, like, he's a little biased in that regard. But the Kavi sadly don't have that same affiliation. But, you know, Ren is still trying to do everything she can to save them. But Aster brings up later on that there's a connection amongst him and his siblings. When they are together, they have an immovable will that's why they're not too worried about him necessarily betraying them again, because it's like, oh, like, you don't have the means to stop us, and we're aware of your betrayal this time, and maybe they have other countermeasures in place, but at the very least, it's like, once he's around his siblings, like, that connection will draw him to, like, cooperate with him. Like, no matter what he may want, it won't matter, because his will kind of will, because they end up talking about, like, because that's what I was wondering, because I brought it up before of, like, is he stronger than him or something? Because it's like they wanted to wake Aster last, and now we got the context. Because you need all 6 of them to have such an their wills to be so in sync that his has no choice but to join. You know, like his last percentage can't stand up to all of their percentages put together, and it's like, let's draw him in to be the last part of this 100%. And now it's like, so that's why they had, because I guess any less than all 6, he would be able to still fight their will. So for him, it's like, because Ren's plan is to get them in there, let them kind of start the process, because Janya needs to revive all of them, and then Vorta can control them with the Navispore, but they want to, like, cut that off before it gets to that point. But Aster's like, right, but if I'm, like, with them, there's no stopping that, you know. It's like, all will be lost, this world will be lost. So it's like, what do we do? That was the main reason why Ren and Janzo stayed behind, because they wanted to find a way to save the Kavi. But it's like, it doesn't seem like there's any clean, good solutions to this. So we'll have to wait and see where things kind of go on that front. But obviously, with them on the gods on their way here, they evacuate the outpost. Luckily, Janzo has been working on his incendiary oil, so which I love. It's like, yeah, we're just gonna have to start a fire in the forest. At least it will cause the fire to spread, and then, like, the gods will have to, like, go around, and it will add a day to their trip, because they're getting here a lot faster than everyone expected. And I love the whole thing of, like, Garrett being like, oh yeah, I'm all about that. And Janzo's like, of course you are, because you love setting fires because you're a child. And he's like, thank you. So him and Zed are going to go do that. But really quickly, I do like that Talon's like, right, about our previous conversation. And he's like, right, if you're not ready for it, she's like, yes, I will marry you. And you're like, oh, that's sweet. Because I think it did alleviate a lot of her guilt. It is a thing of, like, right, like, we don't know how much time we have left, and it's like, right, I got to be honest with how I feel. Because I think for her, she was just a little scared, because it was in the back of her mind, and, like, right, but, like, what if, like, being with him is being selfish when so many of our people, but it's like, no, like, now knowing, like, wait, our people were born from humans, and, like, I would, like, so I'm, like, she can be with Garrett without feeling like she is betraying their people in some shape or form. So I think that kind of alleviated a lot of the worries that she had, you know? And it's like, yeah, she's like, I loved you since the moment I met you. He's like, yeah, Aster kind of confirmed as much, but she's like, he's like, I loved you too, you know? So it's pretty dope. So there's at least some happiness kind of born from all of this. Munt decides to stay behind, but Warlita's like, no, you need to come, you know, help me. And he's like, no, like, the old and the children, they need your help. They need you. You're better with this stuff. He's like, me, I'm nothing more like I'm a big lug. I'm more like a soldier. Like, I need to stay here and, like, help, you know, get revenge for Tobin and everything, but also, like, help, you know, keep the monsters the gods at bay. And it's like, you know, but the people here, they need your sweet touch, because, like, because of you, like, I've healed up, I'm perfectly fine, you know. And so he sends Warlita on her way, and he's like, but I promise I'll be back. And she's like, you better be. And they kiss, and I just love him being like, did that just happen? Yeah. And, you know, Janzo's like, yeah, I did. He's like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I love Janzo being like, I know the feeling, brother. And I'm like, oh, I love that. Even Luna's staying behind, you know. And it's like, Talon's like, you know, there won't be any money. And she's like, yeah, that makes it more heroic. It's like, I didn't know I was dealing with a hero. Now you do. And it's like, I love it. Luna! I'm like, please don't let anything happen to Luna. I want Luna to continue to be around. I hope she does, because it's like, kind of around her big sis Talon or something like that, you know? I like that. I hope things do work out on, like, I hope Luna survives. I hope it, man, because once again, there's just been so much death already. I mean, God, those gods running amok, burning villages to the ground, absorbing life and all that, sure, but it's just like, even amongst like Philista, Tobin, it's just Nedra, it's just like it's been death upon death, and it's just like well, I mean, there's two, but who cares? She kind of finally got hers at the end, so. But ultimately, of course, they run into the teleporting god, of course, and once again, she's going to be the most annoying to deal with. And so the fact is that they have to go at it with her, like Zed and Garrett, as they, because I love that she's like, oh, like, they're like, because Zed's like, oh, each one of us is best at you on our own, and we're together, and she's like, yeah, but, like, yeah, I'm still standing. I'm like, but you're only standing because, don't gloat like, oh, man, I'm so tough. It's like, no, you're only standing because both times they whooped your ass, Janya healed you afterwards, so you gotta cheat on your side. So, like, don't act like, oh, you're some great warrior, like, oh, like, you bested me, but I'm back. It's like, no, you have a cheat code on your team. But luckily they were able to set the fire and give everyone the time necessary to get away. But, that, because, like, they do have a weapon. That's interesting. There's a lot of larger lore that's getting thrown out that I'm curious, like, they probably won't really go into too much. But the fact is that, what was it? The blade that Talon's mom, that she's been holding on to, that her mom had, it's one of the only weapons. It's made from, it comes from a different world, so it's the only thing that can separate the gods from their kin. But each weapon, once used, is useless. So I'm assuming, like, the moment they're used, it, like, dissolves into dust or something. So there's only one weapon left, so you have to make it count. So who are you going to use it against? My initial thought was, like, what I've said time and time again, you gotta go for Janya, the healer. It's like, once again, it's video game rules of, like, the healer has to die first, but then you're kind of like, well, probably, like, the go-to one would probably have to be, like, the death touch, dude. Terra. He might be the next one that has to go. The teleporter, she can probably be an issue, too. If they use Janya the way they want to, she might need to die after she's revived everyone, because part of me is wondering, because if you kill her immediately, like, all that life force in her probably disappears. Like, the Kenjin side of her will be set free, but then it will probably be a thing of, like, well, because they're talking about separating the soul from the body, but it's like, will that, like, straight up destroy the Kenjis in the process, or will the Kenjis just be floating free and someone else can grab onto it? Because part of my brain was like, it's a weird, like, my brain was like, it has to be them specifically, because I was also wondering, like, not unless we get in a situation where someone ends up absorbing all, like, because I was about to say, like, I'm trying to count how many people are left, like, amongst the main cast. Like, of people, like, there at the Outpost. Because what I was wondering is, the math adds up that there are enough of them to potentially, like, everyone gets a Kenj, and then they themselves, like, don't, like, kill the gods somehow and take their Kenjis, and everyone there ends up activating the Scavengers so that they can, like, save everyone. I mean, granted, that would also mean putting, like, that Kenj of Yavala's, the one that Vorta has, into someone, so there's also the danger of that. But I'm like, the math does add up for there to be enough people that if everyone got a Kenj and Talon got hers back, then, like, that could still, like, I mean, there's more than enough people, because, like, you have, like, one extra person, but I think, if my math's correct, so it's like, that could add up that way. So, I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting to see if, like, will that play any correlation in this? But like I said, it depends on if the Kenjis themselves straight up die, because he's planning on killing his siblings. So, like, the point would probably be, like, if you use that weapon, Talon's mother's blade, and you kill whatever one, like, the associated Kenj will die with him. So it's like, maybe you save it for Janya after she's potentially revived to Kavi, because then you don't have to worry about her being the main healer. But like I said, Terra's like the insta-death, like, he touches you, you're dead. So maybe he's the one you go for. I mean, all of them need to die anyway, but I didn't even talk about it either. But what Aster's actual plan is to open up a portal to a different world. It's like, because the Plane of Ash isn't the only world out there. He's basically searching the cosmos, and at the end of the episode, he does find one. He's like a one that's so buried and cold that they'll freeze to death. Because without him, they can't come back through. And he wants to submit them to a world that, just in case, like, maybe there might be another world out there with life, so, but it needs to be something that will instantly kill them and not give them a chance to potentially find their way back through, so. But interestingly enough, he's like, I'm the one that can't do it. It has to be you. So, because he had brought up something earlier that basically, like, because him being able to search the cosmos the way he has, he's like, because Talon's like, oh, I've never been able to do that. And he was like, no, you can. You just haven't realized it yet. Because she has had the Kinj for so long, like, that's what separates her from so many others. I think she probably had, like, whereas only the gods could do the whole thing with the whole unlocking the full potential of their respective souls, their powers. Like, Talon might be in a special case of she's just not aware there's so much more. But it's like, the fact is, because obviously when she first activated, like, because I think what he's essentially saying is, like, when she first activated her Kinj all those years ago, when she basically summoned a Lakiri to save her from the wolf's arrow, that, like, yeah, she did that subconsciously, but it awoken a spark in her, and it's just taken a long time for her to, like, fully comprehend it and understand it, obviously. But in that time frame, she's been able to easily, like, what has essentially been a couple months, she was able to learn how to open it to the Plane of Ashes, kind of no problem. Summon a Lakiri, put them back in, but also, like, open the portal for extended periods of time. But it's like, now that you're aware of, like, what's out there, like, you can really deep dive into the recesses of what this Kinj is capable of, and you can open the portal. So I guess he plans on sacrificing himself and then Talon at some point, like, for him, like, you're going to take it back and you're going to be the one to open the portal. So that's why I'm like, the Kinj just seem like they might go back. Well, at least she'll get hers back. So I'm curious. Like I said, that opens up in my mind of, like, yeah, if we can get everyone with a respective Kinj, maybe that could go towards helping the Kavi. But maybe their plan of, like, using the others to, like Janya in particular, to awaken them and heal them, maybe that will work out. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Because everything, like, it's the season finale next episode, so, like, things could go right in certain regards, like, things could easily go wrong in others. So hopefully it all works out, but like I said, we'll have to ultimately wait and see what happens in the season finale. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.